What's up, guys? We were going to talk about wrist pain with bar chords, which is a huge problem and actually a very, very interesting topic just because there isn't an actual solution to this technically. And RL Boom, thank you for the question. So when you're starting out with bar chords, and I'm not sure where you are with the bar chords or any of you guys watching, but when you're starting out, you're definitely going to overcompensate. And that's going to be bending your wrist, all right? And there's going to be a lot more squeeze involved, right? Because your muscles aren't quite developed to make that motion. So, you know, one thing to think of is if you swallow and then you look up and swallow, you can't, your neck is bent back and everything here is kind of cut off. That's the same with your wrist. There's like so much blood flow going through right here and you're cutting it off, and that's what's creating the issue. So just with that in mind, let's try to keep that wrist bent and that squeeze. When you add that squeeze in there too, it's going to kind of compound on it. Let's try to keep that to a minimum. So at first, when you're doing bar chords, what I would recommend is just playing them. And every time you feel that tense, just kind of roll your wrist a little bit. And I do a lot of like wide and grip like that. All right. So what you want to do is vary up the motion. You don't want to stick to one position for too long, all right? Which does create a problem. I know when I'm recording, I do feel that tenseness in my wrist because I want to make sure that all the bar chords are pure. Sometimes when I'm playing live, I'll do that instead. I'll just do like the bottom part of the bar chords. You're gonna see a lot of guitar players doing that, right? Just that is their bar chords. All right? So just as you're developing your muscles, you want it to squeeze as much and you want it to compensate as much. So even when I'm doing these bar chords, my wrist is pretty close to straight right now. I don't have to kind of overcompensate. So just keep your eye on that. I had a guitar teacher early on that showed me these and told me how many guitar players have had carpal tunnel and problems with the wrist. So that's why I developed kind of like, I almost do this back and forth thing, right? So that's my wrist bent that way. It's my wrist bent the other way when I'm playing live. As soon as I feel any sort of tenseness, I go to that other position, and that just kind of got buried deep in my brain. So I am glad that you asked, because that is something that I have focused on. So just doing that, and then there's plenty of YouTube tutorials about what to do with your wrist so it doesn't do that. If you're a keyboardist, if you're a typist, you know, I have a friend that she makes cakes, so she's like really artistic cakes, and she has to like hold the like little icing thing, you know, almost like a paintbrush, go really slow like that. So she's squeezing down on it and her wrist is bent this way, and she's having wrist problems too. So just varying up the motion is the main thing that you want to focus on. Sometimes, and the reason that this video is like a little difficult is sometimes it's not possible. Like I said, when I'm in the studio, I want to make sure that all the bar chords are pure. So I do get a little wrist tension, and I try to relieve that whenever I can, like when I'm playing live, or if I'm just practicing, you know, for a gig, if I'm just sitting here, you know, I'll vary up the bar chords as I go along. But once the muscles are set, at least it will get a little bit easier. You can look up so many different wrist exercises for guitars. Just type that into YouTube. You guys are gonna get a ton of results. Really, a lot of good guys out there too, because I'm not a doctor, obviously. So try that, see if that works, see if that helps. And just know if you're struggling now that it will end up getting better once the technique kind of sets in and the muscles set in. So I hope that helps. Thank you for the question.